Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the early morning edition of the Bear Necessities podcast. We were too tired to do the podcast reactions last night, so we will be joining you at 9 o'clock sharp this morning. Reese, how are you doing?
Doing good, yeah. I mean, I don't know, Thursday night game, just the weekday night. It was exhausted, couldn't really bother to record this after the game, to be honest.
Already recorded a podcast
right
that day, too.
Exactly. And honestly, I mean, the game was a good one, but it was tiring to watch from the Bears' perspective because it kind of took them a while to get into the game, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as I feel like every single other one of the Chicago Bears wins this year, is that there was just at least, 30 minutes worth of game time where you were just shaking your head and furious, but somehow we pulled through. And, I guess that's a good quality of a team that, hey, things might not be going our way in the beginning, but that we can actually pull through at the end and, just make some good decisions at the end that end up putting us above the other team. But on the opposite hand, it'd be nice to see this team light up a team. Hopefully they can do this next week against the Panthers. And if they don't, I'm going to have some real concerns because the Panthers are horrible.
It's like we can't really shake these concerns, right? Because, I mean, they're like winning games, but I'm still not sold on them. It's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah,
there's just this always
after
aspects of the game that I'm just like, why are we doing this,
Yeah, I mean, even after the victory, I mean, I don't know, man. There seems to be just on offense in general, just some sloppiness, and I don't think it's all Nick Foles. I know Nick Foles in the game. I know he had some bad throws, some missed throws. Particularly two that come to mind is that missed first down to Allen Robinson where he threw it a little high, and then also the missed Darnell Mooney deep shot. Not sure exactly what happened there, but I think his hand was hit when he threw it. So that ended up being what happened. But, ultimately, I have to say Nick Foles, a little bit better impressions than last week. It's hard to really tell if it was just the offense in general or him. So this next week, I think, is going to be extremely important in determining really who he is as a passer.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. One of the moments that stood out to me was, I want to say it was early in the fourth quarter with the whole no huddle situation where it seemed like Matt Nagy wanted to slow things down and get the perfect call, and Nick Foles kind of wanted to keep the tempo of the game going. And I don't know if this is kind of like a consistent conflict that they have. I don't know what the status is between them, but I think it really points out to the issue that we talked about a lot on the podcast, where it seems like tempo works for this team really well. And I think Nick Foles has realized that and learned that. And it seems like Nagy sometimes just is kind of stubborn to get into that kind of offensive rhythm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he gets too over focused on the actual schematics of what he's doing that he forgets just to sometimes play football. These creative play calls are going to be great, especially on first down, second downs, especially third downs. They're going to be great, but if you're rolling, you should just keep rolling. And if you look at what the Kansas City Chiefs do, what the Baltimore Ravens do, they don't spend 35 minutes or 35 seconds in the huddle and then get up to the line. They are a fairly fast-paced offense when they start striking, and they just hit you. And that's the other thing that I noticed is that there was multiple times where the Bears would have a big play. For instance, I believe the David Montgomery, the nice little toss. I don't really know how to describe that throw. He just kind of lofted it over.
He really just kind of dropped it in. I don't know. It's probably the best way. I mean, he really floated it over.
Yeah, it went right over a defender, perfect, great throw. He couldn't do it much better than that. And he was under pressure too, and we get a big completion. First thing Matt Nagy does, I don't know if it was T formation or what it was, but literally just put him at the line, give it to David Montgomery, -1 yards. He doesn't understand that when you strike hard and you get a big play, you need to come out with a second punch immediately. And I noticed just the Bucs knew how to do that, because you looked at earlier in the game, I can't remember if we turned over the ball. I think we might have turned over the ball. And the first thing Brady does is deep ball. like just immediately like another strike downfield. And Matt Nagy just doesn't do that. He really is so okay with like, and I get it. He's gotten a lot of criticism for running the ball, and I know some people are going to criticize him for, leaving that time on the clock with Brady by not running the ball when we were deep into their territory, like just not running it and instead throwing the ball, and Nick Foles ended up with an incompletion to Allen Robinson. But I like that. I'm going to be honest, like, I want to see this team keep their foot on the gas. I want to see them be aggressive. I was not feeling okay with leaving that field goal to Cairo Santos, considering how horrible he's been this year. Are you kidding me? You think that we should have just tried to settle for a field goal? Look in 2018 how that worked out for us in Miami, running the ball until we accepted a field goal. We missed it and we lost the game. So, maybe if we had like Robbie Gould still on this team, that would be a valid criticism. But with Cairo Santos, who has been nothing short of horrible for us all season, that was absolutely the right decision by Nagy there. And then, I'm not happy with Matt Nagy still. I got to be honest. I'm not happy with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a good point about keeping the foot on the gas pedal and you're really trying to drive home to win because, just getting the field goal lead and getting like a point up wasn't really going to make, much of a difference at all. But, I think another very crucial thing is it points out that the Bears shouldn't really have to think about that. They should be able to have that running game going, and something is very wrong with the running game. I mean, I remember in the third quarter, Montgomery had like 5 carries for 13 yards. And I mean, he was getting, use elsewhere in the passing game. But man, it's just like nothing was really coming from it. And I think it just does come from the line. I mean, the Buccaneers got a lot of pressure up the inside of the line, especially right when Barr filled in for James Daniel. I mean, that's right when I think Vita Vea came in and started really disrupting, Nick Foles and also the run game a lot. You just have to figure that at some point this is really going to catch up to this team, not being able to run the football at all.
I have to say that I thought, with the exception of like the first play he was in the game, I thought Barrs played all right. Like, truthfully, like I think that it was that first play where Vita Vea just absolutely wrecked him. Oh, whoops. I think it was the first play when Vita Vea just absolutely wrecked him that it kind of like set the tone. I'm like, oh my God. But then, I thought he played all right. Cody Whitehair, I think he's having kind of a down season, truthfully. He's been letting up a lot of pressure through the middle. And he typically, one of our most reliable linemen, has not really been the most reliable lineman, I don't know, man. It's difficult because a lot of these sacks I feel like Nick Foles is taking are sacks I don't think Trubisky would take. And I understand people who are calling for Trubisky, but at the same time, like, I think at least what we have to hope is that these Nick Foles struggles are more or less him getting used to the offense, whereas Trubisky knew the offense. He just couldn't not the offense, but the players around him. Whereas Trubisky, he understood the players around him. He understood how, deep he needed to throw a ball, where this player's speed's going to be, what's their natural, adjustment. Nick Foles didn't really have that. So, we really have to hope that they're going to be able to figure that out. And it's just a temporary thing. So far, I mean, how are you feeling about Foles?
So far, I feel decent. I like the way he looks back there. I think he's making some good throws that honestly I just don't think we would see Trubisky make, particularly like the ones to Montgomery. I mean, Trubisky had
the checkdowns with pressure.
Yeah, especially just kind of getting through reads, no one was better at getting the ball to Allen Robinson than Trubisky. I mean, they had quite the connection, but in a way it was kind of a bad thing because it was just because Trubisky would stare him down or it would just be a one read kind of play. Nick Foles is scanning the field. He is, trying to find, the best receiver or, the receiver that's most open. And I kind of like, how the ball's being spread around. I mean, we talked about Demetrius Harris. I want to see him get used more. It seems like when they flex him out wide, it really does create a good matchup. Yeah, he's been playing very well. I think we saw
He honestly would. There's a good chance he would be our yards leader at tight end if our quarterbacks could hit him. They've missed him like 3 times this season in crucial situations.
Yeah.
2 of those touchdowns.
Right. And it seems like Foles and Jimmy Graham have developed a pretty good connection too, which has been good. I mean, that strike that he had into the end zone was not only a great catch by Graham, but it was a great pass as well, right where only he could get it. So I think Foles is starting to develop some chemistry with these receivers, and I think what we've kind of seen, right, he's seemed to struggle to find Mooney at times, Allen Robinson and him kind of, it seems like he'll pass it to Allen Robinson and then Robinson will end up kind of creating a pick for him in some kind of weird way. But at the same time, Allen Robinson's been playing good as well. It's just kind of like each player's having their kind of like down moments. And I say the one receiver that Foles has really struggled to connect with has been Mooney, to a good extent. But I think he's slowly finding his way, and I think I like the way that he's running
Mooney's
the offense.
fast, man. Mooney's sneaky fast, So maybe that has a little bit to do with it, whereas Robinson, he's not the fastest guy. He's kind of... The speed guys are the ones that are hard to connect with. He also struggled with Cordell Patterson. And Nick Foles is known for his deep ball. So once that gets figured out, I mean, that could be some real dangerous connections. I mean, those are game-changing plays, So once Nick Foles figures that out, I think that we're going to see a much higher level of explosion in this offense, something that we didn't see. As long as the offensive line can hold their ground for long enough, So I think that a lot of these offensive struggles, too, just has to do with Nagy's desire to create so much yardage at or behind the line of scrimmage. I just don't get it. I really do not get it. He is insistent on throwing these screen passes to try to open up the playbook, I guess. I really don't understand what he's trying to build off these screen passes. I know that you can get them, if players are on the screen pass. I know he tried to do it, and it actually almost worked out, but then Nick Foles got sacked, where you essentially, fake the screen and then it's a go route. And that ended up not really, ended up working. But yeah, I just have so many questions with Nagy, man. I just am not confident in him as a coach. I don't feel like he's competent. I really am just not a fan of him, man.
I think that the screens right now is him compensating for the fact that people ripped him last year for doing countless jet sweeps, and he's like, okay, forget that. Yeah. I'm not going to run a single jet sweep all year because we haven't seen one. He's like, I'm just going to constantly do screens to get that kind of lateral plays. He's dying for something to really stretch out the defense width-wise. But I think he refuses to do that formation-wise. He could really just spread it out. I mean, sometimes he likes to come out with that 5 wide receiver package. He's really insistent about using all of that field. But sometimes he just approaches it in the wrong direction. I think that it can happen in the short passing game, but it doesn't need to all be behind the line of scrimmage. Hit a quick out route or something,
Or listen, hey, I'm fine with a screen pass, but set it up by, throwing 5 wide receivers out there, trying to see what you can get downfield. If there's nothing available within the first couple seconds, check it down. That's going to work way better than a screen pass, So just be cognizant of that, delayed handoffs to Montgomery. There's other ways where you can get defenders downfield and not make it completely insistent on the players that are, who have the ball in their hand. You gotta open it up a little bit for them. It doesn't need to be this even if you're spreading them out, right? You don't need to be striking downfield every time. Just getting a look downfield is beneficial, and it helps the explosiveness on the offense in general. So with Nagy, I don't know if he just is still trying to figure out Foles, so he's defaulting to his Trubisky playbook. That's all I could hope for. But I don't get how he doesn't realize that the reason why we are so good at coming back from leads is because Nagy actually airs out the ball. That's what I don't think he understands, is that he airs out the ball when we are down. And when we are down, we are a much better team because of that.
Right.
And look at us. After the half, we come out with some conservative playbook, and it completely screws us over. We go 3 and out, I believe. You just can't do it. And I get wanting the running game to develop. I really do. But you can develop the running game off of the passing game. It has to be a balanced attack. You can't just keep being insistent on David Montgomery creating something that isn't there. And that's pretty much all of the Bears' run game right now is just David Montgomery creating something that isn't there.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, he's not the type of person that has that like pull-away speed. So, there kind of has to be a decent size crease there for him to get through, and then he kind of starts plowing forward after that. And they act like they can't do the play action if the running game isn't going either. Like, you can still do the play action, even though the running game, it's still going to freeze up the linebackers. Maybe just one of them, maybe for not quite as long, but it's still going to have the same desired effect. I think that they're really quick to abandon certain parts of the offense, and it does become kind of generic. And it's like, yeah, we will go from scoring, 14 points in 2 minutes in the second half to then we come back in the third quarter, and it's like, all right, we're going to get back to doing what scored us no points in like that almost the whole entire first half.
It does not make any sense. And then also, it just seems like I don't know if you feel this too, but there just seems to be like a lack of crispness. So I don't know if Nagy tries to throw like too much on these guys' plates where they don't, like things aren't done to the highest quality and like the little details are lost, because it does not seem like the offense is crispy. People know exactly where they need to be, to an extent, maybe a little bit on defense as well, I feel like, but we had a good defensive performance last night, but it's just, there's something wrong, man. And I don't think it's on the players, truthfully. I think that this offense has, plenty of talent. It should be performing well above what it is now. Yes, our quarterback isn't the best, but I mean, this is Matt Nagy's handpicked quarterback. He knows the system, right? That's exactly what we were talking about this summer is like, sure, people are making fun of the Bears right now because Cam Newton, he's performing fairly well, I guess. And Nick Foles, I guess, has had struggles these past, 2 weeks. But at the end of the day, Nick Foles gives us a baseline to compare Nagy to. And that was what I was most excited about, is that once Nick Foles steps in, there is no excuses.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's just like, it's kind of crazy that this team is winning in spite of the coaching. I would have never guessed that, that the personnel would honestly be good enough just to like do well enough to get them over the hump, even though, it seems like we're playing a lot too conservative at times, and it was good. I felt good on the defensive side of the ball last night because they actually were able to get a turnover. And it seemed like that was really the kind of like spark that was needed to put the offense in a good position to kind of inch them closer to that. So it's pretty clear that I think the defense needs to continue to get that. I mean, Kyle Fuller had one hell of a game last night. I mean, he played out of his mind. That hit that he had to force that fumble was probably the best hit I've ever seen him put on. Sometimes he can shy away from hits, so I was surprised that he really laid it down. So it was good for the defense to create that. I think Khalil Mack had a couple.
He injured the dude too, just on the hit.
Yeah, he did. You're right. Yeah. Which, I mean, hopefully he's okay. It's not something to laugh at, but it's pretty crazy when you can hit a guy.
A cornerback,
Yeah, exactly.
A cornerback, Kyle Fuller. Yeah, I know. I mean, and do you know what's crazy about Kyle Fuller? A lot of new Bears fans. I don't know exactly where like our listeners, how old they are, or like how new they are to football, but people who remember the Bears drafting Kyle Fuller, they remember specifically his injury issues early on in his career. He had 2 torn ACLs in his rookie contract, and now the man has been nothing but healthy. Nothing but healthy. I don't think he's missed a single game since his second ACL tear, which is insane to think about. But yeah, no, I think I've been extremely. Let's talk about the defense because there's actually some positivity there. Kyle Fuller, amazing season so far, amazing game. Jalen Johnson and Kyle Fuller are both good enough to be number 1 cornerbacks in this league for sure. Like, they are both really, really good. I know that statistically they're 2 of the top 3 cornerbacks in the NFL right now. Obviously there's an Eddie Jackson effect there as well, but they're locking it down. And then we got our defensive line who's doing it too. Mac, I felt like Mac all season has looked this good, but he just wasn't converting for some reason, or he was getting. I mean, Mac right now should be leading the NFL in sacks if it wasn't for the roughing the passers he's gotten, which I think he's gotten 3, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing that I feel like the refs don't understand is when you let players hold Mac on every single play. He has to come in at a harder, velocity than other pass rushers. So he's kind of bound to hit the quarterback harder. But, we're not really going to get into that. That was, BS. He should have had 3 sacks last night. The officiating in general, this past game, it was horrible. The Skrine DPI was absolutely awful.
The Bears got helped on that one.
Yeah, it kind of evened out, though, at the end. It kind of started evening out. Towards the end. Honestly, I think that even the pick play, I think that Carlton Davis was all over Allen Robinson, the play that got that pick. And also, Allen Robinson has caused 3 interceptions alone for the Bears this season, which is really weird. Really, really weird. But hopefully that stops. Yeah, so I thought the officiating was another bad game. I think it was kind of bad across both ends, though, and it started kind of evening out. The refs certainly extended a couple of the Bucs drives. They ended up extending like one of our drives at the end there, which we got lucky on. But, it is what it is, I guess. I'm just happy that it didn't absolutely kill us like it did or how it was looking like it was going to in the Falcons game. So yeah, that's good. And then unfortunately we lost James Daniels for the rest of the season, so that's not going to be good. It's a tough loss there. And how about Brady with the thinking it's 4th down?
Yeah, I don't really know what that was all about, to be honest. And then Bruce Arians said after the game that he knew. So yeah, I don't really.
Do you think he's trying to cover up for himself?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of. It doesn't seem like a good way to kind of cover up for yourself, although I don't know why else you would do it. So who knows? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I don't think it was awful. I mean, I think it was the first time he lost to the Bears. So, I mean, maybe he was just trying to have that little chip on his shoulder. But, I mean, I think that he didn't play bad, but I think the Bears defense definitely was able to slow down that offense quite a bit. Mike Evans never really got into the game, so I think they kind of struggled at really pushing the ball downfield in the way that they liked, especially through the middle of the field. They got continuously pretty clamped down upon, which is due to the good work of the safeties, really, Eddie Jackson, Sean Gibson.
They could have ran that ball all game long. I mean, they were getting insane amounts of yards off their run plays. I was surprised they got away from it so quickly.
Yeah, I don't really know why, too, especially since they were kind of in a comfortable battle just trading off field goals, so they really could have probably ran it more. So, yeah, I'm not sure why that quite went. And the Bears defense, or the Buccaneers defense, towards the end of the game and kind of in those crucial scenarios, really couldn't give Nick Foles too much trouble, especially when they did the hurry-up offense. I think that's when the Bucs defense actually got pretty tired, took out a lot of their energy, so it's kind of questionable why, Nagy kind of went away from that, kind of just adds more to that, but, I mean, we've already beat that to death, so.
And, it was a good defensive front. We both said, I said 21 points that I think we could put up on the defense. You said the same thing. They ended up putting up 20. Our defense just played well enough to, kind of cover up, kind of hold it down for the rest of the way. I'm confident about this because the defense looked really good. We are missing Eddie Goldman so damn much, man. It is unbelievable the impact that his loss has had on us. And also, our linebackers need to step it up in pass coverage. Like, really needs to step it up in pass coverage. We have not had, good plays from our linebackers. Actually, here's the thing is Roquan has been really, really good in the tackling. I know he missed a couple tackles this previous game.
Bad miss, but he's usually been pretty good, but he had a couple bad misses.
He's getting there, which is the huge thing. He's getting there, and he also had plenty of other tackles that game. He had some really good plays. I've been happy with Roquan's development. I'm just not super happy with Danny Trevathan. I think that we need to get. I don't know if it's the defensive play calls that we just have the wrong packages on the field or what, but really I feel like this the things that hurt the Bears are these like in-breaking routes and the run game, really.
Yeah, the run game, and they're definitely getting gashed.
The perimeter receivers aren't hurting us for the most part.
Yeah, it's very weird, and it's kind of, I feel like a really good team could exploit us, and I'm surprised that like the Buccaneers shied away from the run game when they really were kind of just gashing them. I mean, it really wasn't that uncommon for them to get it at least 7 yards. Sometimes they'd even get a first down on some like 1st and 10 run plays.
Yeah. So Ronald Jones had like a 50-yard run, and then the Buccaneers put themselves back 40 yards with penalties, and they ended up getting nothing from it. But
yeah, which was crazy. It's crazy how many times that they ended up in like 3rd and like 40 situations. Like that has to. I think they feel like they put themselves in like multiple times just through penalties.
Both
crazy.
Them and the Bears were 30 yards behind the first down line, I believe 4 times in the game. 4 times, which is insane.
Yeah, like when does that happen? I mean, sometimes you get in like a 20 situation because of like a sack, but you should never be putting yourself 30 or 40 yards beyond the chains. I mean, that's ridiculous.
But ultimately, like, honestly, I'm happy. I think that the nature of this Bears team is going to be, if you have a really good defense, we're going to struggle. But I think that what we will see over the next couple of weeks when we play, the Panthers and then the Saints and then the Packers, is that if you don't have a really good defense, we can put up enough points to win, and our defense is good enough that they can dominate.
Yeah, I think with the Panthers, I think it's gonna be a pretty crucial game for them to win again. Just
they need to light them up.
I feel like if they lose, they're just gonna lose all the momentum they kind of picked up from this. They're kind of, they seem kind of like the Walking Dead coming in this week. After they lost their first game, people were kind of shitting on them a bit. But if they can pack as many wins as they can at the beginning of the season as possible. I think that, if they end up dropping it, then it's going to raise all these questions back again. You just don't want to fall into like the kind of trap game situation, I feel like.
Yeah. And they're coming off of like a mini bye, a 10-day resting period. The Bears have performed notably awful off of a bye with Nagy, which is not how it should be, But this team is a hurting team. It is not a good team. How are you, honestly, real quick, how are you feeling about, Nick Foles versus like some of the other quarterbacks we had available, like Teddy Bridgewater, Phillip Rivers, I guess, and then, of course, Cam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cam Newton and what he's done at New England has been good, and I feel like it's kind of fit in, but I think that he wouldn't have stuck as well here with the Bears just because Nagy simply wouldn't have made the adjustments needed to really work, with him well. So I'm almost kind of happy they passed up because that just would have caused a headache. I think the Bears did the right thing in picking up Foles. I think Foles has produced not so steadily, but some of the interceptions haven't been his fault, and I feel like he's led the offense better. I am a Teddy Bridgewater fan, but at the same time, I don't think that his effect really would have been too much different than Foles. I think maybe there's a bit more upside there, but I think also at the same time, there's a little bit more risk that goes along with it. I think Foles was definitely the safest pick. And Phillip Rivers, I mean, honestly, I don't think he would have been the right move for this Bears team. And also, I think that, Phillip Rivers has been on the down slope a little bit. I think that this year, he's been in a very favorable position for himself with the Colts where he doesn't really need to throw the ball too much. He can, run the ball. They have a good defense there. So he really just kind of needs to show up, put up a couple touchdowns for him, maybe give him 275 passing. It's probably a good week for him. So, yeah, I think that, Foles is ultimately probably the best choice. It just kind of was a bad free agent quarterback class, and that's just because there's not really that many great quarterbacks to become free agents. There's a reason why they were cut, and it just kind of shows you just why you need to end up drafting it. A point that we've been pressing home for quite some time now.
See, if and I think this is something that we kind of echoed on the podcast a while when we first signed Foles. Like, there's no question in my mind that Cam Newton would be the better quarterback going forward, beyond this year, right, than Nick Foles. Nick Foles is not going to be the permanent solution in any way, shape, or form. The Bears aren't going to pretend that he is, right? The reason why you signed Nick Foles is because he's going to be a transition quarterback that knows the system, and he's going to be good enough for 1 year, and then he's also a really good, mentor and backup quarterback for the next couple of years when we, inevitably draft and develop a quarterback. I think that sometimes, the national media forgets to look at the long-term plan here, and there's no way in hell the Bears don't, draft a quarterback. There's no way in hell. They're going to draft a quarterback 100% unless Aaron Rodgers gets cut and they sign Aaron Rodgers, okay? Which I would say, which is the only other scenario which I'd be happy with. It wasn't about, people want to make it out as if it was about Mitchell Trubisky. I don't think it was about Mitchell Trubisky. I think it became pretty clear that Nagy wanted to bench Trubisky to begin with after he benched him off of like not even that bad of a half. Like it was a bad half, but if you really wanted Mitchell Trubisky to work out, you would let him play longer than that, right? He would have had to lose a couple games in order for you to bench him.
Yeah.
So they wanted to bench Trubisky. They were fine with benching Trubisky. This is a forward-looking move. Nick Foles, if you get him to the playoffs, he's a different type of player, which it looks like inevitably we are going to get to the playoffs, if only our coach can't hold us back from that. So, and then it also gives you a good grounds to evaluate Nagy on. So it's kind of a win-win from a GM's perspective. It kind of makes, Ryan Pace's job a lot easier. And going forward, I have to say I'm more happy with drafting, especially if we can get one of these top two guys. I'm more happy with drafting a quarterback than with going with Cam Newton, if I'm being completely honest. But it's gonna be really interesting to see how that plays out, because this season is one of those seasons where it is a transition season, but somehow we are winning. It's really weird.
Yeah, and it definitely, expectations will rise. I mean, if you get to the 5-1 mark, especially even if it's just beating a lousy Panthers team, I mean, damn, that's 5-1. That's a good start. If you start getting the 6-1, that'd be for sure one of the best ones that they've had, and it have to be a very long time. I think that the more you can just pile on wins at the beginning here, if the Bears are somehow going 7-1, 8-1. I mean, damn, they could go and have another 13-3 season. I mean, that wouldn't really be out of the realm. They would just have to finish at what would that be if they were 8-1? They'd have to finish 5-2. I mean,
and that looks good from a free agent perspective. Like, we don't really know who's going to become available for quarterbacks right now, but let's say for somehow Aaron Rodgers does come available, right? Let's say because of the cap space situation, they like Jordan Love, they want to mutually move on, and they're like, okay, we're gonna let you go, and let's say he comes available, right? Is it a stretch? Probably, but let's say he does, right? What is better than a 13-3 team that is just missing a quarterback, has a top defense, has everything you need? He's gonna have some major players coming back from what people believe to be an offensive mastermind coach. It's weird. I feel like even the announcers give Matt Nagy that credit. I'm not a fan, but
yeah, it's different as a fan, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe he is. I'm gonna say there's still a chance that Nagy just does not have a good quarterback and that he is really running the ship himself. Right? There is a chance that's the case, but I don't think so. And, that's going to look good for free agents. That's going to look really good for free agents. You want to talk about the draft, right? Are we digging ourselves a little bit of a hole in the draft? Yeah, but we have a lot of draft capital. And if we want to get up to, draft a top quarterback, we can absolutely do that. Are we going to have to give up future picks? Yeah, probably will. And, it's one of those things where it's, you have to wonder how where's that balance going to be, that you're pushing your franchise further enough into the future that you're performing well, you're doing well, you're putting out an interesting season for fans, but at the same time, not ruining the draft capital that you have.
Yeah, I think that's definitely kind of the interesting point where this Bears team is today, and I guess not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's kind of what the bigger picture is down the road, which, we are in the midst of. I agree. I think we're in a transition point, but as you said, somehow we're here succeeding, got to 4-1, in 10 days, well, probably 9 days time now, or next Sunday, they're going to be looking to play the Panthers and hopefully improve that 5-1 point. And, with just how bad that team is, good chance of doing it. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting point we are today.
So here's the games going forward, right? We have the Panthers and the Rams. I would vote that we beat both of those teams pretty substantially. I'm not a big Rams fan. I'm definitely not a Panthers fan. I think that we're going to beat those teams pretty substantially. Then we have the Saints, who've been struggling a lot on offense to throw the ball downfield. I think there's a solid chance we beat that team. And then you look at us and we're 7-1, which I don't think the Bears have ever started 7-1 in my lifetime, right? And then you go to the Titans and the Vikings, which are another 2 winnable games. This team could easily be 9-1 if things break right for them.
Yeah, definitely. But
going into the Packers on November 29th.
Yeah. But, if there's one thing for certain with this Bears team is that you just never really quite know.
They will screw it up.
Exactly what you're going to get. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but we could definitely be on pace for a very good start, I think.
Really? Honestly, I could see us going 13-3 and having our next 2 losses be to the Packers. That is a realistic situation with how bad this... listen to the teams we play, okay? So we play the Panthers, the Rams, who've been really underperforming, the Saints, who've been really underperforming, the Titans, who knows how they're going to be at that point with this COVID stuff, the Vikings, who are horrible. Then we play the Packers, who are a really good team this year, the Lions, who are horrible, the Texans, who are horrible, the Vikings, again, who are horrible, the Jaguars, who are horrible, and then the Packers.
Yeah.
What's the chances this team goes less than, 11 wins?
You'd have to be. They'd have to do a lot of shooting themselves in the foot,
which they can do. They definitely can do that.
Right.
So, all right. Well, I guess that's really the bulk of the reactions, man. It's unfortunate with losing James Daniels, but also, we beat Tom Brady, man. We should be a little bit excited. I feel like we were a little bit pessimistic on this podcast, but
a little bit. But I think a lot of the Bears fans are having similar worries. There's no way you can watch this team, at least with not like a homer perspective and be like, there's not some things wrong with this. There's definitely
best team in the NFL.
There's definitely some issues with them, but at the same time, right, you can't not be happy with that win-loss record. Ultimately, that's what matters. If this team goes on to be very successful, no one's really going to care if they only eked by and won the first couple of games, So, yeah, I think you have to be happy with where they're sitting at and, heading into another favorable matchup. So that just has to make you smile a little bit.
You know what's messed up, too, that I was thinking? This team could go 13-3 and not get a bye because of the Packers.
Oh, yeah. It could be another one of those tough situations for sure.
Man. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll be coming back at you later this week, so stay tuned. We're back to our normal upload schedule, so don't you worry. And we're going to be putting out all the best Bears content that we can. Thanks, guys.
Right on.